Hello and welcome to another podcast of Upward Trajectory. Today, I'm so thrilled to be introducing Miss Unconventional herself, Keirra Asnauskas, and she is the lifestyle design strategist at Miss Unconventional LCC. So thank you so much, Keirra, for joining us. We're so happy to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Jennifer, for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited.
As am I. And we had a little talk a week or so ago, and you just had mentioned to me all of your phenomenal travels and just the adventures that you've had in life. And I was just sitting there going, in this pandemic, I am so jealous. And I'm like living vicariously through what you're telling me, where you've been, what you've done. And I'm like, wow, this woman has been living her life and she's not done yet. And I just knew I had to have you on the show to share what you've done, what you've been up to, and how you've been able to just thrive in life and just kind of go with where you're carried. And I'd love to hear your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yes, well, in this pandemic, I obviously had to put a pause on the whole travel bug, but if you want to know my backstory, it really started back in 2013. I had just graduated from college, realized I had gotten a degree in a field that I could no longer pursue a career in. And so I just felt lost and confused. I went from living in Pittsburgh to then dropping everything, packing everything up, moving to Maryland, where I was like a Hooters girl until I felt like I could figure things out. Like, it's just so different, right? And then I went from working at Hooters to then moving to Atlanta with my father, and discovering that I could actually work on a cruise ship in Hawaii with a Norwegian cruise line where they'd pay for everything. Because back then I was rock bottom broke, right? I had like 89 cents in my account and they were trying to completely like repossess my car. And it was a struggle. It was a complete struggle. And I was like going down a deep hole of depression. And so when I was there and I realized I had this opportunity to work for this cruise line who would pay for everything, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. This is not what I thought I would be doing. This is not what I went to school for, but I need to take advantage of this opportunity right now in the season that I'm in hopes that it will lead me to what I'm supposed to be doing. So I went and worked on the cruise ship in Hawaii, and then I started to work on getting my TESOL certification so that means teach English to speakers of other languages. And I applied to the EPIC program in Korea, English program in Korea, and I was accepted. And so after about a year and a half, 18 months of working on the cruise ship, I went from there to teaching English to elementary, middle, and high school students in South Korea.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just crazy. And then went from there to teaching English to Afghani women in Kabul, Afghanistan. And then from there going and pursuing an MBA in Croatia, and then dropping out of that MBA program to go full-time entrepreneur with Miss Unconventional. And that is like the short and sweet trajectory of Keirra Asnauskas' life.
Well, that's quite a story, Keirra. And it's just, I hear the energy and the excitement, the enthusiasm. And I'm just envisioning like all these exotic places, Hawaii, and then Korea and the culture there. And then you're in, Afghanistan, and just the experiences that you had to get from that. It's got to be, there could be a story probably from every day that you spent in each of those places, but we'll have to do that a different time.
I did a disservice to myself by not keeping journals for sure.
Well, you probably have lots of pictures though.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit, what is Miss Unconventional and what do you do? Where did it come from? What is your dream for it? Can you kind of share with us that?
Sure. So last year, in the beginning of last year, when I was making plans to establish my residence in Croatia and figure out what I was going to do from there, I kept thinking about all the times that my friends and family members said, oh my God, I wish I can do that. I wish I can live that lifestyle. I wish I could. You're doing things that are so different. And for me, it didn't feel like I was doing things that different because I was surrounded by people who were doing the same thing that I was doing. So like when I was in Korea teaching, there were other people my age from the US teaching English there. So it just didn't feel different. But then I come back to the States and they're like, oh my God, you were where? And so I realized that I was living this unconventional lifestyle. And I was struggling to come up with a name for the blog. And so, but that the word unconventional just I kept it at the back of my mind. And so I came up with Miss Unconventional and decided that it was going to just be a blog, a personal development blog, a lifestyle design blog. And that I would run it on the side in the hopes that it would provide like an extra stream or two of income. And so it was going to be something that I did while pursuing a career in HR, because I was getting my MBA in HR. And fast forward to later on last year, around October, I had just launched my blog and I was going to Malta for a female like business entrepreneurship like retreat. And when I presented the idea for not just the blog, but what I wanted to come from the blog, to host these luxury vision board workshops on cruise ships, because that was the original idea for Miss Unconventional, was to not only have it as a blog, but then to occasionally host these vision board workshops on cruise ships. And I introduced that idea to the women that I was in the group with, and they were so excited. They were like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. And they gave me like energy when they, heard my idea and they thought it was great. And it was sort of like a little bit of that validation that I could do it. And so so I took that, and when I got back to Croatia and I was sitting in class, I couldn't think about anything else but Miss Unconventional in these like luxury vision board workshops. And I was just like, so the course that I was in, we had to prepare a career planning presentation based on personality tests that we took. So like based on your personality test, you were supposed to come up with a career plan for your life. So I decided that would be the day that I dropped the bomb on my professor and my colleagues, that I would no longer be matriculating through the program with them, and that I was going to drop everything and become a full-time entrepreneur and like, step into my calling of this Miss Unconventional, like, and building this Miss Unconventional empire. And so I did that. And I haven't looked back since. 2 months after that, I hosted my very first luxury vision board workshop in Atlanta. It was not on a cruise ship, but it was in Atlanta, and it was for New Year's Eve, and it was amazing. In just being like, just hosting that event, I felt like, yes, finally, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It was the most liberating experience I think I've ever had in my life, when you just know that you've hit the jackpot and you're now walking in your purpose. That was the moment. Fast forward, we're in COVID-19 times now. So cruise ship luxury vision board workshops are not going to happen anytime soon. So I've had to pivot quite a few times, but still that underlying teaching ambitious goal-oriented women how to design their best life is still the mission.
Yes, well, I love your story. I love what you share, and how unconventional. Literally, your name is so perfect for who you are and what you're doing. And I love that you mentioned that you had to pivot, because I think so many people get trapped into this. It's almost like a pod of, well, I can only do this. I can't cross this boundary. I can't do that. But when you have this open mind of possibility, and I feel it with the excitement that it's just coming through the screen. I mean, just, you are absolutely authentic in your excitement, and I just feel it. I feel that energy. And I think that the listeners will too, that, you are not bound by anything. Only your dreams and your visions. And like you said, like, you just have to focus on a vision and focus on how you're going to get there and take the steps. And I mean, you dropped your whole MBA program over this, and you were just like, no, this is what I'm going to do, and I have to do it now. You were just take the bull by the horns and go forward. There's not even another day you're going to spend. I absolutely love that. And I think that you are such a breath of fresh air, so to speak. I mean, especially in this time of unknowns, and maybe people's jobs dissipated, or maybe they changed to a point where they're not in a place where they're happy or fulfilled anymore, and they need a change, and they're thinking, what do I do first? What's the first step I do? Do you have any suggestions or tips for them?
Yes. So here's the thing, and you're saying all that, and I'm so excited because I want to say this. I look at every situation. If the worst case scenario is short of death, then I'm going all in. Like if I'm not going to, if in the worst case scenario of me pursuing this particular endeavor, I'm not going to die as a result, then I can give myself permission to go all in. And this is part of the reason why I'm even writing my current book, Permission to Pivot Granted, because it's giving people, showing people that you don't have to be scared, right? You can fail 100 times before you have to get it right, before you have to get your life together, right? We're living longer. And so I guess the first step will be just give yourself permission to pivot, and don't think about what other people will how other people will see you, what they will think about you changing your mind. They are not you. They don't pay a bill, and they're not in charge of your salvation, right? So you can give their opinion the attention, like you don't have to give their opinion the attention that they're expecting, because at the end of the day, you can only live your life. They can't. So I would encourage people to think about what their Lux vision, I call it the Lux vision for their life. Think about your Lux vision. Think about your personality. Start with self-awareness. Figure out what you actually want in life. And then ask yourself, am I being fulfilled right now in what I'm doing? If the answer is no, brainstorm, brain dump on piece of paper. Well, what would make me happy? Okay, like and then once you come up with a couple of choices, like do some research. Okay, go and talk to other people who are doing that thing, and see if you're just romanticizing that path in your head, and you're not taking into consideration the cons of that path. Get I should say, educated on that particular path by speaking to other people who've already walked it, right? And then determine from there, oh, is this a path that I myself can walk and feel fulfilled in, because I'm willing to weather the storm of the how, right?
That's great advice. And I love how that it may almost sound like you're just like somebody that's just going to throw all caution to the wind and just dive into something. But when you break it down like that, there's a lot of risk assessment. There's a lot of structure to it. There's a lot of checking off boxes. And when you do it that way, you're kind of taking a lot of the unknowns out, saying, is this feasible? Is this something that can be done? Are there other people doing it? How is this all working for them? So I love the path and the structure that you have towards it. And I think those are great steps and suggestions for somebody that maybe feels stuck and doesn't know what to do next. So I really appreciate you sharing that with the audience, Keirra. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. That's the strategy part of the lifestyle design strategist. You don't just go into it like, oh yeah, I just want to change my mind because this is not working. No, because a lot of people will just pivot because it gets hard. No, you got to make sure you're pivoting for the right reasons, and that you're pivoting with a plan, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And then you're not pivoting from the frying pan into the fire. You're going the right direction.
That part, yes, that part right there.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Yes, I just want to say that to people who are feeling stuck, because you mentioned that there are a lot of people who are feeling stuck during these times. They're feeling like, they can't move forward or move in a different direction. But what the research has shown that, people who are on their deathbeds, they actually regret the decisions that they didn't make, the goals that they didn't go for. They rarely regret the things that they actually did. It's more so the things that they didn't give themselves a chance to do. So knowing that the research is overwhelming on that, then you should be armed with the courage to just go for every single goal that you set. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. And so then you could just take that lesson into the next pivot, okay, and do it better. So just release yourself of this feeling, this need to stay where you are, because it's not, the end result of that is just not worth it.
Yes, and then the failure is so much, people get caught up in the fear of failure so much. It needs to be emphasized again that it's a growth. And anybody who's succeeded has probably failed more times than you realize. And there's a lot of people that are very open to that and say that are very successful, and they accredit their success to all the failures that they had prior. But so many people still get caught up in that, I don't want to fail. And you can't succeed without failing. You have to make missteps. You have to take stumbles before you're going to get to the top of the mountain. And I think that that is such an important point that I wanted to reemphasize that. I completely agree with you there. Well, Keirra, this has been phenomenal. I think that your energy, your passion, Miss Unconventional is awesome. I love it. I love the luxury vision boards. I hope that cruises open up sooner than later so you can get back on those and change more lives. But
for now, it's just virtual.
Well, virtual is good too. But I'm just curious, if people want to reach out and they want to know more, where should they go? How should they find you?
Well, they can go to two places. One, they can go to missunconventionaluniversity.teachable.com. That's where I house my lifestyle design resource library and the lifestyle design lab. And then they also can go to www.missunconventional.com. That's my blog, and that'll have all the information to get in touch with me. And I'm very, very active on IG, on Instagram, so at missunconventional_.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on today, Keirra. It's been a pleasure, and I'm just pumped up with energy after talking to you for this time. So I appreciate that. My boost for the rest of the day.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, and please join us again for the next podcast of Upward Trajectory. We can't wait to see you again. Thanks so much, and take care.